Support for the show, FYF Sports, is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all of your below-the-waist grooming needs. Get 20% off and free shipping with coupon code FYFCREW at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code FYFCREW. Your balls will thank you.
All I hear is yap, 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 yap. Ain't talking about nothing, right? Watch this. We gon' bring that pressure.
Just a little FYI, FYF, 20K sub 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. This a FYI, FYF, 20K sub 6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings, we all know who the real is. I be getting to it, ain't wasting no time. Walking straight in, we ain't waiting in line. Fuck your feelings, you don't care about mine. You a YouTube gangster, don't be yelling out slime. Or you talking LB, talking Ticket TV. Ain't nobody watching them, all the viewers be sleep. 5 years in, all your subs is your friends. Ticket TV, watch your cars again. Just a little FYI, FYF, 20K sub 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. This a FYI, FYF, 20K sub 6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings, we all know who the real. They all know, shop don't close. Working 24, trying to make the channel grow. Look at them, pointing fingers, hating on the low. You can't compete with our podcast show. Couldn't make it in the league, so we got on TV. Crying by LeBron like a little baby.
Here's FYF Sports, man. It's Lamont. We are back with another podcast episode, man. Today we got a more special episode for you guys. Kind of wanted to dive into another topic or another realm of basketball that we really hardly ever speak about here on FYF Sports. But I think with the NCAA tournament right around the corner, I think this is a subject that's kind of gotten glossed over and no one's really paying attention to it. But you know, here at FYF Sports, whenever we talk about these issues, we always like to dive deep into them, really go to the drawing board and kind of figure out what's going on, what's changing in the world of sports, in the world of basketball, and even with respect to college basketball. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started with the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you haven't done so already. Again, we have surpassed 20K subscribers. Salute to everybody that subscribed to the channel, smash the notification bell, engaging in all the content, liking, sharing, and helping us push this content across the YouTube spectrum. So salute to everybody for us hitting that milestone. Again, the next milestone is 100K, and I cannot wait till we get there. But today we got this topic that I wanted to speak on, and you know, whether, you know, some of you guys are really invested in the NBA, really don't pay a lot of attention to college basketball. And I've even fell victim of this as well over the past with regards to not paying attention to college basketball unless it's the conference that I favor, which for me is going to be the Big Ten, or until the NCAA tournament kind of gets here. But generally, with regards to college basketball, we all know who the Bluebloods are. I mean, the Bluebloods are the perennial powerhouses who year after year after year are bringing in the best players, the best prospects, constantly getting to the Final Four, constantly putting their teams in a situation to win a national championship. And this year, of all years, and obviously this has been one of the strangest years in sports that we've ever seen. This year, those powerhouses, those Bluebloods, are all finding themselves struggling to some degree. And it's just been a striking trend across college basketball. And more glaringly, two teams that you rarely would ever connect with struggling in basketball. You have the Kentucky Wildcats Over the last 10 years, this is a team with John Calipari. He's been able to pull in top recruiting class after top recruiting class. Even going into the 2020 recruiting class, he had the #1 recruiting class in the country, bringing in 6 top recruits and some of the nation's top transfers. All right, when we talk about Duke University, another team that's finding themselves struggling mightily this year. They had the #3 recruiting class, bringing in 6 of the country's top freshmen. All right, a team that's directly connected with winning, a team that's always at the top of the ACC, a team that always finds itself competing deep into the NCAA tournament with its renowned coach and Mike Krzyzewski. But this year, when we look at these two teams, and this is not just these two teams. We've seen Kansas struggle to a certain degree. Michigan State, another blue blood, going through their own problems over in the Big Ten. There are a number of teams, even UCLA, there are a number of teams that have all of a sudden found themselves struggling mightily. And they're not in the top 20 where we're used to seeing these teams in college basketball. And I'm really trying to figure out why. What's going on in college basketball that's kind of been the equalizer? What's leveled the playing field? All right, what's helped some of the teams, when we talk about college basketball, when we look at teams like the Villanovas, West Virginias, Creighton, Florida States, these are the teams that are right beneath those blue blood teams. Usually strong enough to compete, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, they'll usually fall to some of the titans of the NCAA basketball. And that's what's been happening in years past. And so I just want to know what's going on in college basketball that's creating this shift in balance of power, where you have teams like Iowa, now ranked at 11th in the country, with one of the best players in the country, and Luke Garza, just look like they're steamrolling over some of these good teams. When you have a team like Creighton, who's been known as a solid mid-major, more popularly known for Doug McDermott, but they're also in the top 15. All right, when you have teams like Loyola in Illinois breaking into the top 20, looking like one of the stronger teams in the country. And even when you look at teams like Arkansas and San Diego State, these are not teams that you commonly find in the top 20. But the top 20 this year is filled with a large number of teams that are solid for most years, generally have some down years until they get a decent recruiting class or can coach some guys up into their junior and senior year and bring an older team in and maybe make a deep run. But year after year after year, when you look through the top 25, the teams that you see at the top, we got Gonzaga at #1. We got Baylor at #2. So Gonzaga 21-0. They've been known as one of the stronger mid-majors. A lot of people wouldn't really classify them as a mid-major any longer. But they're looking extremely dominant. You got Baylor with which Coach Drew out there leading that team. Michigan's been a good team. All right, but over the last 10, 15 years, can we say they're a blue blood or a powerhouse in basketball? Probably in football, but not in basketball. Ohio State, #4. They've been solid this year. They've been really good, but are they a blue blood? No, they're more so of a football school. When you talk about schools like Houston is not really known for football or basketball, but they found themselves at number 6 in the country. The same thing with Virginia, Alabama at 8, Villanova at 10, Iowa at 11, West Virginia at 13, Creighton at 14, Texas Tech 15. All right, look at the teams in the top 20, and then really one of the only true blue bloods of basketball that you see in the top 25. I would say it's Kansas, sitting all the way down at 23 at 17-7. But no Kentucky, no Duke, no Michigan State, no UCLA, no UConn, no Florida. When we're talking about the powerhouses of college basketball, these teams have kind of dissipated. And I'm going to be breaking down to you today what's going on in college sports, or specifically college basketball, that's become the equalizer. And the NCAA needs to be on notice, because this is not a good sign when your blue bloods are struggling to this degree. And it's not necessarily a big deal because they're struggling. Because every team, sometimes you have a down year in basketball. But when you have so many of your perennial blue bloods all struggling at the same time, I can only look to one common trend that's affecting everybody. But first, I just kind of want to really review some of these teams. I really want to review some of these teams that are struggling, and just kind of break down their rosters, because a lot of these teams that are struggling definitely should not be struggling. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over to the drawing board. All right, we're just gonna look at the rosters of the Kentucky Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils. Those are the two teams I want to focus on. Although there are a large number of other teams. I could go down Arizona's rosters, UCLA, Michigan State, UConn. I could go over Florida. All of these teams that are perennial blue bloods in college basketball, I can go over all their rosters. I just want to focus on Duke and Kentucky. Primarily because they had the number 1 and number 3 recruiting classes coming into this college season, and you wouldn't expect for this to happen when you look at those rosters and you see the amount of talent that they have amassed on these rosters. Let's go ahead and get to the drawing board. All right, so first up, I want to talk about the ACC and the Duke Blue Devils. All right, so we got the ACC conference standings pulled up right here. All right, let's scroll down to the Duke Blue Devils, who right now are struggling with a 7-6 conference record. All right, so they're struggling right now with a 7-6 conference record. Overall, they're 9-8 on the season. All right, so these two numbers over here in this last category, this is their record versus the AP polls, whether it's the AP top teams or the USA Today top teams in the country. They're 0-3 versus some of the top teams in the country, which is very alarming. Because when you look across the board in this conference, it's not a extremely strong conference other than just the top few teams, where you have Florida State, where they usually find themselves in the bottom half of the top 20 most years. Same thing with Virginia Tech and Virginia. Both of these teams, they'll find a way to eke themselves into the top 20 most years. But when you're talking about Louisville on down to Clemson, North Carolina's even struggling this year, and we didn't even really mention them with an overall record of 13-7, 7-5 in the conference, which is another blue blood that's struggling. But when you're talking about this Duke Blue Devil team, we're going to go ahead and click that team right there. They're struggling overall. And when we talk about the talent that they have on this team, all right, when we talk about all of the talent that's on this Duke team, all right, and you just look at some of the, if you just look at some of the losses that they've had, it's been extremely surprising. Let's get to their roster real quick. And I'm going to run down some of these players that they have on this roster. All right, we're going to run down some of these players that you see on this roster. Now, some of you guys may or may not be familiar with players on this Duke roster. I'll help introduce some of these guys to you. All right, but first off, we got Jalen Johnson. You'll see him right here, 6'9" power forward. He's a freshman. All right, he was the number 13 national recruit coming in. All right, he's definitely on a lot of NBA teams' big board. It's coming in, being a very lengthy and athletic wing who can kind of do it all. He was having a good season because of the failures that Duke has been having this year. He said he's stepping away from Duke basketball to focus on the NBA draft because, at this point, at the way Duke looks right now, they're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament. And there's no sense of him continuing to play, risking injury for this Duke basketball team when really he's not going to get anything out of it. And again, that concept, what that player did, the number 13 ranked recruit in the country, stepped away from Duke basketball because he says it's not worth it for him to continue playing basketball and risk injury when he knows next year he's going to be entering the NBA draft. He's going to be a lottery pick and he's going to be making millions and millions of dollars.
Big news, and it is huge news. The freshman Jalen Johnson has decided to opt out of the remainder of the season for Duke.
Here's the deal: the guy quit his team.
For him to opt out now, optically, it's very odd.
At the end of the day, Duke is going to do what's best for Duke in the program moving forward, and he has to do what's best for him.
All right, so I think for the NCAA, this is not a very good sign. It's extremely alarming. And we're going to be speaking on that later. That now you see players understanding that staying in college basketball is not fiscally smart for their future, especially if they're looking to move on. All right, so that's one of the issues that the NCAA really needs to look at. All right, because this is not just any player, nor is just any team. This is one of your blue blood teams, and you've had one of the elite players, not the number 1 or top 10 player or recruit coming out of this class, the number 13 player in this class walking away from Duke University basketball to say that they want to prepare for the NBA because it's just not worth it. All right, but we got other players on this roster. All right, we got Jeremy Roach. Jeremy Roach was the number 23 ranked player. We see Jeremy Roach, 6'1" guard. He struggled this year. Out of Whitney Young, we got DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart right here, guard out of Chicago, very solid, five-star recruit. But again, he struggled as well. We got Mark Williams right here, big man, 7-footer out of IMG Academy, very solid, looks to be promising, but kind of just dealing with a lot of struggles this year. And we got Henry Coleman. We got Henry Coleman III. He's actually a 4-star recruit. He's a 4-star recruit. He was 54 ranked nationally. And then we got Jerman Breakersfield, another 6'8", lengthy wing out of Mississippi. I actually had a chance to see this guy playing. Man, he looks like he's going to be great. He was a 4-star recruit, number 42 in the nation, coming into Duke. So look at Duke's class. Look at all the talent that they have on this roster. And this is not to mention the players that they brought back from last year. All right, when we got Joey Baker, who's solid, a junior. When you got Wendell Moore Jr., another guard, solid. They did lose a few people. They lost a few players to transfers, and obviously they lost a lot of talent to the draft. But this is a team that's always been able to reload and gear up for the next year. We saw that with Zion's class, how those freshmen came in and had an instant impact and a crazy social and fan following around that team wherever they played. And this year, all of a sudden, the playing field's kind of leveled out. The playing field's kind of leveled out, and I'm trying to figure. I really want to identify what's that factor that's balancing the tide with these teams. Duke is normally one of those blue blood teams that, with the amount of talent and fanfare and all of that surrounding them, they're able to separate themselves from everyone to a certain degree, and they're struggling to get to the top of the ACC this year. All right, let's move over to. We're going to go ahead and look at Kentucky. All right, we're going to go ahead and look at this Kentucky team. Let's pull them up right here. So we got the Kentucky Wildcats, 7-7 in the conference. Extremely underwhelming record right here. You see 8-13 overall on the season. 1-5 versus the AP top 10 and 1-6 versus the USA Today top 20. That's definitely not indicative of a John Calipari led team. Even when he was at UMass, those teams definitely were much more talented. So we're going to check out this Kentucky roster, see what's going on, because obviously they have the number 1 recruiting class in the country. You would never expect for the number 1 recruiting class in the country to struggle to this degree. And we've seen that just having one top 10 recruit on your team can take your program from being just an average D1 team to an elite D1 team. You got to look at this Kentucky team. They have 6 elite prospects on this team. 6 elite prospects. Let's talk about the talent that they have on this team. Man, first player I want to talk about is Brandon Boston, a freshman out of Sierra Canyon, 5-star recruit, number 5 nationally overall. Brandon Boston, definitely going to be a lottery pick going in the next year's draft. We got Terrence Clark, another 5-star recruit, out of Brewster Academy, number 8 nationally overall, 6'7" freshman guard, can do it all. Just can't find his footing for whatever reason. We got Isaiah Jackson, a dynamic big who can kind of do it all, extremely athletic. I thought he came into this season slightly underweight. I thought he needed a little bit more muscle mass, get stronger. But the promise is there out of Pontiac, Michigan. That's no doubt about that. He was a 4-star recruit, number 30 all nationally. We got Devin Askew. We got Devin Askew on this team. Another guard. Now, he's had his struggles this year because Kentucky struggled just with the basics. Being able to attack off the pick and roll, being able to read and react out of the 5-out or the 4-out 1-in. Devin Askew's been part of that. But there's no doubt about it. As the number 32 recruit coming into this class, you would expect a little bit more from him, especially in the SEC. Especially when you're talking about overall, this is not an extremely dominant conference with regards to basketball. They're usually top heavy. The bottom half, Kentucky's usually able to run through the bottom half of this conference. We got Lawrence Ware. Lawrence Ware is another 4-star recruit. We got him right here, 6'9" forward out of Camden, New Jersey. Number 39 recruit overall. A lot, and actually with Lance Ware actually early on in his high school career was ranked a lot higher. He kind of dropped on a lot of people's boards, but there's still no doubt about it. He's an elite talent in college basketball. And then we got Cameron Fletcher. All right, we got Cameron Fletcher right here, 6'6" forward, kind of can do it all. I expect that Cameron Fletcher as the number 70 recruit overall out of all the players in this recruiting class. I think he's going to be the only one to stay and kind of do a little bit more development going into next year. And then that's not to mention they got 3 transfers. They got Olivier Sarr, a center, and then they also have Devon Mintz. Now Devon Mintz is solid. He's a transfer guard, a senior. He's had his struggles as well, man. When Kentucky has a resort to bringing in senior transfer guards, Calipari definitely had some worries on that perimeter going into this season, but no one expected them to have this many struggles. And the key to this is why are these teams, and not just Kentucky and Duke, Michigan, UConn, Florida, North Carolina, UCLA, Arizona, why are all of the Bluebloods struggling in college basketball? What's happening in the game of college basketball that's been the equalizer? What's been the equalizer that's allowing teams like Gonzaga to sit atop the college rankings? What's happening with a team like Virginia that struggles to bring in even 4-star recruits? How are they sitting at number 7 in the country? Alabama, who's more so known for their football, how are they able to compete and bring in recruits? All right. I think this problem has to start and end with the NCAA. The NCAA, to me, is starting to turn into Blockbuster Video. For the longest time, Blockbuster Video dominated, the movie rental world. How you see new movies, how you have family nights and things of that nature. Blockbuster Video kind of ruled that domain for the longest time. All right, but then new technologies come around, things such as Netflix and Redbox and all of these other things, giving customers more accessibility to more content, to better content. All right, and I think with the NCAA, I think you have a number of players, especially this year, you have a number of players who see bigger and better options in college basketball. I think that's exactly what's going on. All right, when you look at some of the players that should be in college basketball, when you look at some of the guys like Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Daishawn Nix, Isaiah Todd, Kai Soto, all of these guys should be on some of these blue blood teams. Jalen Green should be on a Duke or Kentucky. Jonathan Kuminga got offers from Duke and Kentucky. Daishawn Nix as well, Isaiah Todd, Kai Soto. All right, and this is a number of other players, because we also have other players who bypass college basketball to go overseas or whatever. When we saw it last year with LaMelo Ball and even R.J. Hampton. And R.J. Hampton was a talent that didn't have to. Obviously LaMelo Ball had his own issues with eligibility And so maybe the overseas route was more his preferred destination, but it was confusing to some to see RJ Hampton take that direction. 4.0 student, right? Wasn't academics, but these kids are not seeing the benefit of NCAA college basketball fiscally or as far as their growth and development as a player. When we really think about it, you think about Zion Williams' 1 year at Duke. How much better did that 1 year at Duke really make him? Other than the fact that it exposed him to more injuries. All right, we saw the blowout with the shoe. All right, and we saw that it didn't really help his conditioning. You know, he wasn't in the greatest shape coming into the NBA. Like, what is the NBA, especially for these one and done players, how is it benefiting the players to any degree? Now, we see the large number of players who fall into accepting money and bribes from shoe companies, from AAU team, from boosters from teams, and they get caught up in all of these allegations. You know, we see that happening. But the players literally get no benefit out of coming to play college basketball, even if it's for some of the Bluebloods. All right, I think if some of these players, I think if they do decide to play college basketball, I don't believe that it's imperative that they have to go to a blue blood to showcase their skills. I don't believe so. Because when we look at the top players, we look at the top recruits. We're looking at the top recruits coming into the NCAA in 2020. You got Jalen Green. He was the number 1 overall recruit. He went to the NBA Select. All right. They enhanced the benefits for that program, moving the salary up from $125,000 up to $500,000. I don't think he could bypass that up. And he's playing against high-level talent, and he's playing with people directly associated with the NBA. They're going to tell him what he needs to do to get better as a player. We got Cade Cunningham. He bypassed all the blue blood teams, went to Oklahoma State, and now he's leading that team, looking like he's the number 1 overall prospect right now. All right, we got Evan Mobley. We got Jonathan Kuminga, who we know he's with the G League as well. All right, we got Scotty Barnes, who's struggling right now. We got Jalen Suggs. He chose to go his own route, went to Gonzaga, a smaller school. All right, this looking like it's starting to pan out for him. He bypassed the opportunity to play for a blue blood, all right, and said, I want to pave my own way and go to a school that's just going to help me get better. And Gonzaga has definitely done a good job. I would say they probably have the number 1 developmental program in the country. The way players go to Gonzaga and come out of Gonzaga it's amazing. But when you look at all of the top players in the country, a lot of them are saying, why deal with the headaches of playing at some of these blue blood programs? You don't get as much, obviously there's the attention to you directly is going to be less because you're dealing with so much talent, so you can easily get overlooked and overshadowed. And then with just regards to coming into college basketball altogether, when we look at players like Sharif Cooper, who came into Auburn, and he came in, the NCAA wanted to investigate and check to see if there were NCAA violations for him coming in because of his father's association with certain AAU teams and boosters. It took him months to become eligible. Now he's eligible. Now he's missed half the season. Now he's come in. And it's just like the NCAA is kind of getting in their own way with regards to hurting the blue blood teams. They're not offering anything tangible to these players. The players cannot make money off their own likeness. The players can't get compensated. The only thing that the players risk is injury. And even if they're injured, the school is not obligated to take care of those injuries outside of when that player leaves the school. There is no long-term benefit to playing college basketball. All right, and unless you go to certain programs, unless you have certain affiliations with certain schools, certain schools aren't necessarily even making you that much better. As far as great as Duke is, I think their developmental programs are terrible. I think I don't think Cam Reddish got better at Duke. I think he was drafted into the lottery because of hype and the hype surrounding his name. I don't think RJ Barrett got better playing at Duke. All right, when you look at a lot of the players that came out of North Carolina, how much better did college make them when you're one and done somewhere? I mean, LaMelo could have easily been a one and done at any of these schools. Would any of those schools really made him that much better? Or did he get more out of going down to Australia, playing with professionals, and then coming back? I think LeVar Ball and LaMelo may have come up with a better way to prep you for the NBA if you're dealing with a kid who's bound to be a lottery pick. But the NCAA is still getting in their own way with regards to this particular situation because they absolutely are refusing to compensate the players to any degree. And not just compensate the players to any degree, they're prohibiting the players from making money off their own likeness. All right? That's steering players away from the blue blood schools, one. That's steering players. It's going to enhance, some of those smaller teams or smaller schools, all right, that can kind of skate under the radar, maybe skirting that fine line of what's an NCAA violation or not. It's easier to get those things done when you're at a program that's not in the limelight as much. John Calipari's whole tenure at Kentucky has been filled with rumors that he's been offering players incentives to come play at Kentucky because of the high volume of players that they bring in there. I mean, do you really want to put that type of attention on yourself? I don't know, but I just think the NCAA's way of doing things needs to change because the NCAA as it is right now, people are slowly phasing themselves away from NCAA basketball. First, the NCAA basketball used to be where it was at. Now the regular season in NCAA basketball has lost its luster. And the only thing that people cared about was the NCAA tournament, and brackets, and the bracketology and all of that came with it. Now with COVID, that's even lost its luster because the Bluebloods, the teams that you expect to be in the NCAA tournament, aren't there. I mean, who's really tuning in to see Virginia play in the NCAA tournament? Who's really tuning in to see, Missouri play as a top seed in the NCAA tournament? And that's the unfortunate reality of it. And the NCAA is shooting themselves in the foot. They're allowing the top players in the country to see far too many other options. And now that the NBA has definitely revamped its G League developmental program, which also now includes $500K in salary, now they have another hurdle. They're giving the players another option to look at as opposed to going to play in D1.
This season, the NBA's G League, it consists of 18 teams playing a 15-game schedule in the Gubble at Disney World. Pre-COVID, it was supposed to be 29 teams playing 50 games in their home arenas, but that's not the only big difference this year. One new team is soaking up a lot of attention because it's different than the other teams. It is a showcase for players expected to be top draft picks, not a team composed entirely of free agents of players who've already been drafted. This team, the Ignite, might be the spark that changes the player development model. 16 years after the NBA 19-year age minimum ushered in the era of one and done in college hoops. Some of the game's all-time greats played not a single game in college. LeBron James, Moses Malone, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, to name a few. But for a generation, attending college for at least a year was all but mandatory, unless you wanted to play in Australia, like LaMelo Ball. But now basketball's on the edge of a new frontier, embodied by this team, the Ignite, an NBA-owned and operated team designed specifically to develop highly regarded players who choose to skip college for the pros. A G League All-Star team.
His shot rejected. The run out. Jalen Green.
Punch it down for me one time. Wow.
The concept extends beyond merely preparing players for the rigors of playing in the NBA. It's about teaching the life skills that are required to be a successful professional athlete. It's like an extended rookie orientation symposium with a roster that includes several veteran NBA players, like 37-year-old Jarrett Jack, who are on hand to mentor the youngsters, like Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga. Players are eligible for what amounts to a scholarship to Arizona State. That benefit is available throughout the G League, but they won't be playing for Coach Bobby Hurley because the Ignite's players are pros, and the money isn't nominal, as it had been in the past in the G League. Elite prospects like Green, for instance, can make $500,000 plus this season to play in 15 games. There are players on the roster from India and the Philippines. Kuminga is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And the coach is five-time NBA champion and former NBA head coach Brian Shaw.
Come on now. Head on the swivel. All right, head on the swivel.
With the Ignite, the NBA is giving players a plausible path to the league that does not include setting foot on a college campus, giving it more control of the process of developing the next generation of superstars. And by giving the best players more options, the Ignite might force change in the college game too. And for more, we are joined now by ESPN NBA draft analyst Jonathan Givony. Jonathan, is the Ignite really going to change everything?
Well, Jeremy, what the Ignite team has done in their first 6 games in the G League bubble has been really eye-opening. I was in Orlando for 3 days last week watching games alongside NBA executives, and you could see how excited they were about what they were watching. It's just a much cleaner evaluation for them as watching NBA prospects match up with former NBA draft picks in a 48-minute game played under NBA rules. You know, we saw some pretty unique circumstances line up pretty well for Ignite. I mean, they've been practicing for 6 months here daily with some really highly qualified NBA veterans like Jarrett Jack and Dante Hall. You know, to answer your question, I don't think that one and done is going to be eliminated anytime soon, which is why a program like this is even more important as an alternative pathway to the NBA for guys that don't want to play college basketball.
Well, why won't they get rid of one and done when Adam Silver has said he wants to see it gone and expects it at some point soon, maybe the next CBA in a couple of years, that it will be negotiated away?
I mean, I think that one and done makes sense for the NBA. NBA scouts, NBA executives, you talk to them, they really like the system that it's in place right now. It was hard for them to go out to high school gyms, you know, watching guys play against 9 other, you know, non-Division I prospects and get a feel for what type of pros they're going to be. So I think college basketball or Ignite or, you know, Europe, international, it's a good stopgap for them. They would much prefer that.
Is the NBA expecting, Jonathan, in the future to see all the top players? I mean, the guys at the very top, perhaps, of the lottery choosing the Ignite because of what they're making available to those players, the money, the scholarship, the access to NBA veterans who are going to, you know, teach you the ropes?
About that, the NCAA has a TV contract with CBS that extends until 2032 for the NCAA tournament. They make almost $1 billion off that. They're going to change these NIL rules pretty soon, allowing teams to players to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. And I think that they're going to come pretty aggressively at some point to try and head this off because it's not a situation that, college basketball coaches, college basketball programs are enjoying watching right now.
Is the world of college basketball viewing this as a real threat to what it has been doing for now nearly 2 decades?
I mean, they're set here for the next 11 plus years. You know, they have a contract into 2032. And so they have time to figure this out. You know, we know that the elite one and done players, guys like Zion Williamson, they move the needle for TV in a huge way in terms of ratings. So losing these guys year after year is not going to be good for college basketball. It's going to hurt them. But I just don't know that Ignite is a part of the national conversation just yet. And college basketball is pretty firmly entrenched in the calendar. So I think that there's going to be opportunities for them here to head this off. It's not the last we've heard about college basketball.
No. A bold new model, however, for player development that has been flying somewhat under the radar. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. I really like what the NBA did. And the NBA essentially stole LeVar Ball's concept of the JBA. All right, by creating a G League select team. All right, now we see Jalen Green there, and he's looking great. We're seeing Jonathan Kuminga there. He's looking great, like he's going to be a top 3 pick. All right, but they're also, the NBA sees the value in these kids. So the NBA not only sees the value in these kids, they see the value in these kids up to $500,000. And if it just doesn't work out, and these kids get into this G League developmental program, the NBA is going to also cover all of their college tuition for whatever college they go to. So they have that opt-out as well. So college is always there if they want it. They get injured, something happens, they can't continue playing basketball, college tuition paid for free. So that's always going to be there. But the NBA and all of these other teams overseas, all right, LeVar Ball and the JBA, the NBA G League developmental program, they all see the value in these kids to the point where they're willing to pay these kids money and incentivize those kids coming to play for them. But the NCAA wants you to come play for free. We're in a capitalistic age where a lot of these young kids are looking at their own value a little bit more. And the NCAA, I think is about that time where you also look at the value of these kids as well. Because it's just going to continue to get worse. Teams like the Michigan States, who used to clean up with the 3- and 4-star recruits, the higher level 3- and 4-star recruits, Michigan State found themselves with a 49 ranked recruiting class. A lot of the guys that they normally get, a lot of the guys that now Michigan State normally would get are going to the Bluebloods. And that the upper echelon, those top tier players are finding ways to bypass D1 basketball. So as Duke starts to scoop up some of the 3- and 4-star recruits that normally would go to the Michigan States and the Floridas, the NBA is taking all of the top talent, and now we're going to see it hurt. Now we're going to see a trickle-down effect where it's going to start hurting all of these conferences. And so the bottom half of these conferences are going to look extremely bad. The Blue Bloods, teams are going to be able to compete with them more. They're not going to look so dominant. And this is going to be a consistent thing, especially when only thing that's going to happen going forward into the future is that these kids are going to get more and more options. All right. More and more options to play elsewhere where people actually recognize their value. The NCAA does not recognize these kids' value. And that's the problem. And again, I'm not a proponent. I'm not one to run around saying that you should pay every kid, because I think then there's a gray area, because now you have to pay all the athletes in all sports. I just say allow the kids to make money off their own likeness. You don't even have to pay them. Allow them to go out and make money off their likenesses. You know, if a kid's popular enough to have an autograph session where he can get paid, a sponsored autograph session, that's fine. Make money off your own likeness. If people want your autograph and pay merchandise and memorabilia, that's fine. If the school's selling your jersey number, if the school's making money off, you should get a percentage of that. The school's not running around selling Randy on the lacrosse team. They're not selling his jersey. But if you're on the D1 football or basketball team, guarantee your jersey is going to be in that bookstore. Guarantee your jersey is going to be in sports stores in that local in that local shopping area. Those kids do deserve a percentage of those proceeds. When the schools are making billions off these players, but they don't show the kids that they see their own value. So I salute to all the kids that are bypassing D1. As much as I love college basketball, I think a lot of these kids like Jalen Green and Kai Soto and Jonathan Kuminga made the right decision by passing up D1 basketball, because at this point in time with the one and done is really doing more harm than good to these athletes, because it's not making them better. It's not making them better because as they spend a year in college, they don't have to be accountable for anything. They only go to class for the first semester. The second semester, they're not going to class at all. They can literally flunk every class and it wouldn't matter because they're going to go into the lottery the year after. So you're not holding them accountable there. So you're only allowing them to develop and pick up a lot of bad habits while in college and then move on to the NBA unprepared and underdeveloped. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about, the fall of the traditional blue bloods in college basketball. Do you think it's going to be just a one-year thing? I personally believe this is going to be something that's here to stay. I don't think Kentucky's going to ever bounce back all the way from this. They may have a few good years, but I don't think we'll ever truly look at them as one of the top upper echelon teams in this country, because I think that the tides are starting to balance themselves. And kids are also starting to see that I can go to a Purdue, I can go to a Illinois, I can go to a Maryland and still get to the NBA. I can go where I want to go. I don't have to go to these big blue blood schools just to get to the NBA. These other schools will do just fine. And if I'm not a lottery talent, I can go to another school, one of my choice, where I want to be and be happy, instead of going to a blue blood school somewhere where I don't want to be. All right. But the schools, the NCAA need to do a better job of incentivizing of this, and not even incentivizing it, just making the players aware that you understand their value and what they bring to not just the NCAA, to each of these schools. And I think for far too long, the schools, these university presidents, and the NCAA have been in cahoots too long, trying to trick people into believing that these kids are going to school with all of these restrictions. When you're under scholarship, you're under a large number of restrictions, but they're getting paid with a scholarship because that scholarship is more restrictive than anything. Man, I don't know. And we'll have to do another episode on another day to break down what an NCAA scholarship actually is and why it only benefits the school and it does nothing positive for the student. And it's not actually even a 4-year scholarship. It's actually a 1-year scholarship that's renewed every single year. So there's really no guarantee that a school can even keep you on for 4 years. Crazy situation. But the NCAA needs to make some changes, because NCAA basketball, as we knew it before, is gone. And it does not look like it's coming back. But you guys, let me know what you think about this video. What are your thoughts on this, man? What are your thoughts on the incoming recruits who bypassed college, went to play, whether it is overseas or they went to the G League select teams? What do you think about the players that did go to play D1, but they chose not to go to any of the blue blood schools, just wanted to be somewhere where they wanted to be, what made them happy if they are going to go through college? So it's just, let me know what you think about that, and whether it's in the live chat or in the comments, man. I would love to hear your thoughts, because the NCAA is right around the corner. And even with this, we know COVID is going to affect the ratings. I think this is going to be one of the worst rated NCAA tournaments that we've ever seen in history. And it's only because of the NCAA itself. When they can get off their high horse, when they can come to accept the realization that you're going to have to change with the times and not continue to be blockbuster video, that's when we'll see the NCAA have a major bounce back. But until then, I think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. And over the next 10 years, if they don't make any major changes, I think college basketball as we know it could potentially be non-existent. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you haven't done so already. All right, we've grinded. We've got to 20K. Next goal is 100K. All right, we're going to keep pumping out these videos and new content. Again, if you want to be a special guest on the show, if you have new music, if you're an artist out there and you want your music playing during our scoreboards or even during the intro or outro of the show, make sure you let us know. Make sure you send us an email at business@fyfsports.com. You can message us on the channel. There are a number of ways to reach out to us, whether social media or email, but just let us know. All right, we got a number of sponsorship openings for anybody who wants to be a part of this FYF Sports movement. Babe, it's been a great episode, and we'll be back with a live stream later tonight. But until then, It is FYF Sports.
6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings. We all know who the real is. I be getting to it, ain't wasting no time. Walking straight in, we ain't waiting in line. Fuck your feelings, you don't care about mine. You a YouTube gangster, don't be yelling out slime. Or you talking LB, talking Ticket TV. Ain't nobody watching them, all the viewers be sleep. 5 years in, all your subs is your friends. Ticket TV, watch your cars again. Just a little FYI, FYF. 20K subs, 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. It's a FYI, FYF. 20K subs, 6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings. We all know who the real. They all know, shop don't close. Working 24, trying to make the channel grow. Look at them, pointing fingers, hating on the low. You can't compete with our podcast show. Couldn't make it in the league, so we got on TV. Crying by LeBron like a little baby. You must be crazy, trying to ever play me. Or you super tough until it's time to say cheese. Just a little FYI, FYF. 20K subs, 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. It's a FYI, FYF. 20K subs, 6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings. We all know who the